I'm here with Brady Bourgeois, who is the winner of the TCG Seniors Division this year's tournament. And Brady, we just have a few questions. First of all, where are you from?
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep, we get people from all over the country. And what was the deck that you decided to play for this tournament?
Giratina Seismitoad.
And what made you choose that particular deck for this tournament? Were you expecting a certain metagame, or what went into the strategic choice there?
Well, I knew there was going to be a lot of Night March and Vespiquen Bees and Vespiquen, and so I decided that Giratina Seismitoad would have amazing matchups against those. And it also had a good matchup against Mega Rayquaza because of Giratina's ability blocking Mega attacks, and it also had a good matchup against Mega Manectric. So I knew it had good matchups most of the way around, but it had like a bad matchup to Greninja, which people thought was going to come. I thought I was going to hit a few Greninjas today, actually, and might lose a few matches, and might get kicked out of the tournament.
Well, you certainly didn't in the last couple rounds on your way to the championship, so that was pretty fortunate. Were there any fine-tuning adjustments? Any specific cards you sort of balanced out in the deck? Any adjustments you made there for this specific tournament?
Well, I got rid of Hexmaniac and the Super Scoop and and all the Super Scoop ups, and added Azia and Garbodor, a 2-1 Garbodor line to block abilities to further beat down Night March because of Mew, so they can't use Mew anymore, and to also have a better matchup against Greninja.
Yeah, being able to shut off abilities is obviously very important. Now, obviously, your Giratina has one, but unless you're playing against the Mega, you don't have to worry about that too much. All right, so you had your deck, you had your strategy there. Let's go to the finals. You were on stream for those, as well as the top four, if people want to take a look at that. But let's focus on the finals. You were paired up against a deck that was playing Mega Manectric with Jolteon EX. So obviously, Giratina has a good matchup against that, but Jolteon EX is something to watch out for, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to keep pressure on really early, and you have to use your Giratina to make sure they can't attach double colorless energies so their Jolteon doesn't get it set up really fast. And you also try to use Crushing Hammers and Team Flare Grunts and other items that discard energy to get rid of all the energy on Jolteon until you can Lysander it up twice and knock it out.
Yeah, Jolteon, because it has the attack that makes it temporarily invulnerable from basics, is obviously a big problem, but you worked very effectively around that, although you did have some help in the finals. First of all, you hit heads very consistently on the Crushing Hammers that you played to get rid of the energy on your opponent's side of the field, even though earlier in the day you had a streak in the top four where it just wasn't coming for you. What's it kind of like with that card when you're going from both the positive and the negative? How does that make you feel?
Well, when you hit a ton of tails, it just gets really annoying because your opponent gets a very big window to get back in the game in energy, so they might get a big attack off and knock out one of your main attackers, and it's just annoying. It's not fun. But when you get heads a ton of times, it helps you very in the long run. Your opponent runs out of energy slowly, and you're also preventing them from attacking you.
All right, so if folks have watched the final stream, if folks at home have done that, then what they might have noticed is that during the finals match, there were a couple things that kind of got through for a little bit that shouldn't have happened, mainly on your opponent's side. But the first one happened, I think, in Game 1. He sort of played a stadium, Rough Seas, that's correct. He played a Rough Seas in order to get some damage off one of his Pokemon, even though you had used Giratina's attack and he couldn't play stadiums. That was rewound fairly quickly, but in the second game there was a more major error. You had, or your opponent actually had Parallel City out, and he had it pointing to him so that he could only have 3 on his bench, and all of a sudden he put more on, including a Shaman. So how did that all resolve out, and when did you realize that he had made a mistake?
I didn't really notice it at first because I usually have Parallel City pointing at me, because that's the only stadium I play in my deck, so I'm used to having about 3 Pokemon on my bench, and I didn't notice it at the time because it didn't really matter. I was thinking, actually before they caught it, I was thinking about playing my own Parallel City in my favor to lock out his Parallel City, but you can't do that actually now that I think about it. But he got a major penalty. But it was only 1 prize card, and it didn't really affect the rest of the game. And they effectively just took the cards you got from the Shaman, and put them back on the top of the deck after showing me. And it didn't really affect the game too much, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, judges, it would be nice, obviously, if they had caught that a little bit sooner before he had progressed, and they could have at least, maybe gotten a warning instead of a prize, instead of you getting a prize for that. But stuff like that does happen, and people can get a little nervous and move forward a little too quickly sometimes, and that can happen. All right. Well, of course, next month is Worlds in San Francisco, and there's kind of a big question mark over this one because we have another set, Steam Siege, that comes out very early in August, and they've changed the legality rules so that it will be legal for Worlds. So, do you have any opinion on that, or are you going to be planning anything out based on what happens with that set?
Not too much. I know I'm probably going to switch my deck, not from Giratina Seismitoad to like YZG or something else. But the reason why I don't want to play Seismitoad anymore is because I think Nightmarch is going to have a falling out with a new card that shuffles all the Pokemon from both discard piles into the decks. So Nightmarch will not be played as much, which is one of my best matchups. So I'm thinking about whether or not I want to play Giratina Seismitoad or another deck.
Yeah, that's the big question mark with Steam Siege. There's a card coming out as a promo in Japan called Karen that is sort of a less broad Lissandra's Trump card because it only shuffles Pokemon in. But we're not 100% sure if that's going to come out in Steam Siege or somewhere separately, or it could even be a while. So that's the big question mark, and we'll know a lot more in a couple weeks. All right, well, thank you very much, Brady. This has been Stephen Reich from the Greater Columbus Convention Center in Columbus, Ohio, at the Pokemon U.S. Nationals 2016.